in fact, in Karnataka, Nagarjun, we saw some really volatile situations. We saw protests that were violent and scarring. Many of those girls, we believe, have dropped out of school. Now, that apart, we'll get into that debate in a little later on. Do tell us on the security, in fact, the security arrangements right now, owing to the Supreme Court verdict in parts of Karnataka, especially those areas that were protest hit.
Well, as per the police sources, I was just talking to the police sources this morning. They feel that coastal Karnataka is quite secure this morning because of the PFI ban. And as we speak in Mangalore, Dakshin Kannada, Nabila, PFI raids are happening from Mangalore City Police. 5 people have already been detained. And police feel that since the central government has banned the PFI organization, protests are unlikely in coastal Karnataka. But however, the whole state has been put on alert. Police have been deployed in crucial junctions, and intelligence also has picked up few information is what we are told. But overall, the opinion of the police department is things are going to be fine today. Even if the protests happen, they have to seek permission of the local SP or the commissioner and then only stage protests in certain spaces, not across the city. For example, in Bengaluru, if someone has to stage a protest, it would be only Freedom Park. That would be the designated protest place and nowhere else. So no procession, no protest will be allowed on the roads, but most likely dedicated places will be given. But we'll have to wait and watch what repercussions will it have on Karnataka, especially political repercussions. Remember, both the parties are doing a yatra. Hijab was a big issue for both parties and they were highly opinionated. Remember, Siddaramaiah was talking about how Swamijis and seers cover their heads with a saffron shawl, and Congress also supported it. BJP immediately jumped the ship saying, how can Siddaramaiah insult Hindu saints, Hindu Swamijis? So it's a big political debate also. It's not just the students involved in Karnataka in terms of the whole perspective on hijab. Political parties are also involved. So there will be political repercussions in the next few weeks after the verdict and ongoing to the elections. This would be a big election debate, at least in the coastal Karnataka area.
You know, Nagarjun, from what we see, when the hijab row broke out at that point, Uttar Pradesh elections were on full swing. Now when the Supreme Court verdict is coming along, Karnataka elections is on in full swing. So we're only hoping that this does not become an all-and-out political issue, because it ultimately comes down to the future of these young girls and of course the future of India. Per se, this will be a blanket ruling. We must be prepared that the Supreme Court's verdict will prevail across educational institutions in the country, not just in Karnataka henceforth. Nagarjun, we're going to come back to you, but Pooja, from the looks of it...
And Nabila, wasn't it always political? In fact, the year started with the big politics in Karnataka, and you were there. You were covering it on the ground as well. You were speaking to students with different ideologies and what the situation was like. You know, how has Karnataka been since this controversy broke out? Because it is politics, it is elections, but it also clearly has religious overtones.
No, undoubtedly, you know, Pooja, if you ask me how has Karnataka been ever since, parts of coastal Karnataka, very volatile, very sensitive. Like Nagarjun said, there's police deployment there only to ensure that there is law and order maintained. And those parts of Karnataka have always been communal. Mind you, this is not something that's come out of the blue. These are parts of Karnataka that have always had religious communal tensions right from the start. So they're basically communal hotbeds. So just a trigger was enough for these hijabs to go up in violent protests.
It started from Udupi and then we saw it was Udupi across the country.
First of all, Udupi is a temple town. And of course, we'll have this kind of reactions to women coming out and wearing the hijab inside educational institutions. But it was really a small issue that could have been dealt with, maybe one-on-one, based on that particular
Absolutely,
case.
I agree to that.
But this is now, become a pan-India issue, pan-Karnataka issue ahead of elections. So what I'm personally worried, because I was on ground and I interacted with those girls, is that many of them would drop out of education. And are we really willing for that? Should we not be a little more sensitive to those girls? Maybe understand what they're going through, give them the liberty to carry out their education and make a decision on those grounds. Can we force them out of it? That's the question.
So what started from one pre-university institution in Udupi then literally spiraled out of control before even the governments and the police realized, and even the college administrations, all of them were caught off guard. But, you know, what we can actually talk about is, here it is about the headscarf in the classroom, but it then brought to the conversation about different cloaks or coverings that are worn by women of the Muslim community. So hijab is just one. There is the niqab, burqa, and we saw in the protests that are happening in Iran over the chador, or the manner in which the burqa is in Afghanistan. All of this appears to be in the name of faith, covering a woman's modesty or sexuality, but it also brings in about a woman's right to veil or unveil. Here's a special report about how this has been a bigger debate.
The terms may be used interchangeably, but in fact the hijab, niqab and burqa are different pieces of Islamic covering. They're all designed to protect a woman's modesty. In recent years, they have sparked debate around the world, with some militating against this show of religious identity and others seeing it as a patriarchal imposition on women's bodies, cloaking them in victimhood and depriving them of choice. The Muslim woman herself is divided, with one half of the sorority discarding it and the other half embracing it as an observation of their faith. But first, what is the hijab and its cousins? The hijab is the simplest covering. This is essentially a length of cloth used to cover the head and neck, much like the ghungat among Hindu women, who often use the end of the sari to cover the head. A niqab is a starker covering. It veils the face and covers the head and neck, but leaves the eyes exposed. The burqa is the most intense covering. It includes a full body cloak, a veil for the face and a covering for the head, as well as screen covering the eyes. A chadar is a large piece of cloth that is used as a combination shawl covering head and face. These are only some variations. Others include the shaila, a long scarf that is used to cover the head and face, and the abaya, which is a long robe-like dress that's usually worn over the clothing. While it is common to see such clothing in black, the color is not fixed. For instance, in Afghanistan, burqas are often made in a shade of blue. The exact cut and style also vary, keeping in mind local customs and climate.